I'm Chris Duke, and today on Motorz, we're installing an adjustable suspension on our 2008 Mustang GT. Eibach Springs has been making high-quality suspension products for over 30 years. Originally European-based, the company expanded to the U.S. in the 80s to manufacture products for American high-performance vehicles. Now, we've lowered an S197 Mustang on the show before, but the difference is this kit offers an adjustable ride height, so you can adjust all four corners from 0.8 of an inch to a full 3 inches, allowing you to compensate for varying weight distribution. So today on Motorz, I'm going to show you how to install Eibach's Pro Street S Performance Handling Kit on our 2008 Mustang GT. The tools you're going to need from the Sears Blue Tool crew include some spring compressors, various wrenches, ratchets, extensions, and sockets, as well as a Torx T40 bit, a breaker bar, some channel lock pliers, a pry tool, some work gloves, and safety goggles, a torque wrench, and various Allen head wrenches, and if you've got air tools, well, it'll certainly make things a lot faster and easier.
Hi, I'm Nate with Sears Tools. Let me tell you about the Blue Tool crew. We know tools. With over 400 national brands and over 30,000 products, we can help you find the tools you need. Shop with us at your local store, online at sears.com/tools, or with the latest Sears Tools catalog. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And if you have any questions, give us a call at 877-4BLUE-CREW.
We're going to start at the front end of our Mustang by replacing the stock struts and springs with the coilover system from Eibach. But before you get started, make sure it's on the ground, and you want to measure on all four wheels the amount of distance between the center of the hub up to the fender lip. We're at about 17 1/4 there. Now you want to write those numbers down and keep them handy for reference later when it's time to adjust your ride height. Now let's jack the front end of our Mustang up and get these wheels off. To give yourself a little bit more access when working inside here, turn your wheel all the way out and then grab a 19mm socket and a breaker bar with an extension to loosen these two bolts, and then keep turning them until the nuts on the back side fall out. You don't want to remove these just yet. Then take an 18mm and an 8mm wrench and remove the sway bar end link, and then this 10mm bolt to remove this brake line bracket. And finally on the back side, approximately here, is a tree clip. Just use a pry tool like this one to pop it off. On the top of your strut tower inside your engine compartment are 4 of these 13mm nuts. You want to completely remove 2 of them, but just loosen the other 2 for now. Now before you can remove the strut, you need to relieve some pressure that's on it. So put a floor jack underneath that control arm and lift it up just a little bit. Then remove your sway bar end link. And now you can remove the 2 19mm bolts so that you can swing the spindle away from the strut. You want to start with the lower bolt first and then the top one. It helps to wiggle the rotor a little bit while you're removing them. And once you've got both of these out, you can have a buddy go back up top side to remove those remaining 2 13mm bolts so you can remove the strut. Now when you compare the two side by side, you'll notice that the spring on our stock strut is quite a bit bigger and thicker than the equivalent on the Eibach coilover. Now don't let that alarm you, because they are traditionally smaller, plus you have the added benefit of some weight reduction up front. We need to remove this top plate from our stock strut assembly so that we can reuse it later. To get that off, we first have to compress our springs using spring compressors. Once we've got that tightened up real good, then we can come back up here and use our 21mm wrench and a 10mm socket so we can remove this nut. Now if you get tired of wrenching, you can bust out your air tools such as our Craftsman 1/2-inch air impact wrench. Now you want to keep going until you have some separation right here between that spring and that pad. To make it easier to put the bearing plate on with the provided nut, take a 2mm Allen wrench and loosen this lock screw so that you can turn this collar all the way down. That'll give you enough space to assemble everything. Line up the bearing plate with the top of the spring just like that, and then install the provided 7/8 nut. Now after you get started, use a 6mm Allen head bit like this one and tighten it all the way down. With the arrow that's on the top of the bearing plate pointing to the outside of the vehicle, install your new coilover and then put everything back together and repeat on the other side. Now that we've got our front coilovers installed and look pretty darn good, we've got to get to our sway bar before we get to our rear end. Refer to a previous episode on Motorz for a step-by-step tutorial on how to install these guys. Well, we're done with the front end of our Mustang. We flipped it around. We've got it supported on jack stands. We've got a jack underneath the rear differential to support our axle. But before we can install all of our rear Eibach components, we've got to remove our rear sway bar, the bottom bolt on our shock, and that's going to give us enough play so that we can remove our spring. You might need a spring compressor for that. Lower your floor jack so you can drop your axle a little bit, then push down on your axle just a little bit. Just be careful of your brake lines and twist that spring on out. Install your new spring with the new adjustment collar. Use a Torx T40 bit to remove these two Torx screws that are holding this bump stop bracket onto the axle. Remove the factory bump stop from this bump stop bracket and replace it with the new one provided by Eibach. This is rather difficult to do. We found using some channel lock pliers was the best tool to get that done. Install your new bump stop, your new rear sway bar, and your shocks, then adjust the ride height. To install your new Eibach shocks in the rear of the vehicle, you're going to need a 15mm wrench to remove the bolt on the bottom as well as the nut on the top. But you're also going to need a 6mm wrench to hold the shock shaft in place so you can get that nut off. After removing that bottom bolt on your shock, get into your trunk and pull back this trunk lining to reveal the nut that you've got to remove right there. Grease your sway bars at these Zerk fittings. There's 2 in the back and 2 in the front. And then we can move on to our adjustments. To adjust the height of the rear suspension, use the provided spanner wrench to turn the collar up or down. To adjust the height in the front suspension, use a 2mm Allen wrench to loosen the set screw that's inside the collar. Then use the provided spanner wrench to adjust the collar up and down. Now when we come back from our break, we're going to check out some new LED taillights from Hella. One of the easiest ways to improve the appearance of your truck or SUV is by installing aftermarket taillights. Now, there's a ton of different options out there, but one of the brightest are these LED taillights from Hella. They're easy to install, they look fantastic, and they also improve the safety of your vehicle because those LEDs are brighter and they illuminate faster than a traditional bulb. Plus, LEDs last a really long time, which means less maintenance for you. Now let's get started by installing one of these on one of our project vehicles. We're going to start by installing our Hella LED taillights on our 2008 Toyota Tundra pickup truck. Now this is super easy, it just takes a couple of minutes. The only tools that you're going to need are a Torx T30 driver, a plastic pry tool, and some painter's tape. Now we're going to start by taking our painter's tape and masking off some of the paint on the side of the light. We're going to be using our pry tool. Take your Torx T30 driver and remove these 2 screws. You've got one on the bottom and one up here on the top. Use a plastic pry tool to pop the light away from the vehicle. Remove the 3 bulb sockets from the taillight assembly and then remove the bulb that's in this top one. Since our new turn signal lens is red, we're actually going to swap out the amber bulb with the clear one we removed earlier. Remove these 3 covers over the bulb socket openings by pulling on the tabs, or you can also use a small flat blade screwdriver to get them out. Install the bulb sockets into your new lens. Install the new Hella lens by just snapping it into place right here, and then reinstall those Torx T30 screws, and repeat on the other side and give them a quick test. Once we're done with that, we're going to work on our third brake light. Yeah, that ought to do it. The tools you're going to need from the Sears Blue Tool crew for replacing a third brake light on a Toyota Tundra include some pry tools, a small ratchet, a 10mm deep socket, and a small flat blade screwdriver. Replacing the third brake light on a Toyota Tundra is hard, and the reason is because there's a couple nuts behind the headliner up here that you have to get to pop that light out. So first start by removing this plastic coat hook, the scuff plate, and the weather stripping that goes around the door. Now once you've done that, behind this cover is a 10mm bolt. You need to remove that so you can pull this trim panel away, give you some wiggle room for your headliner. Just be careful because there's some plastic tree clips behind there. You don't want to damage them or lose them. So at this point you should have enough room to get your hand up in there with your 10mm socket to remove those 2 nuts. After removing the 2 nuts above the headliner on the interior of the vehicle, remove these 4 screws that are holding this lens on. It pops off just like that. Then using a small flat blade screwdriver, lift up on this center tab to remove the entire light housing and then disconnect all these electrical connections. As you can see, the Hella LED third brake light on the top looks very similar to the OEM one, except it's got the LEDs in the middle. Even on the back side, it's got that single wiring harness connection. So all you have to do is just plug it in, reinstall it, and put those nuts back on the back side. To show how much faster the LED taillights from Hella illuminate, we've only installed one at this point on the driver's side there on the left. On the right is the stock lens. To show you a more dramatic difference, we'll pause the video for approximately 2 seconds before resuming, and it will show it to you again real time. The installation of our Hella LED taillights on our 2009 Chevy Silverado is very similar to our Tundra. The tools are a little bit different. We've still got our painter's tape, our plastic pry tool, but this time we're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver. So let's take our tape and mask off our paint where we're going to use the pry tool. Use your Phillips head screwdriver to remove these 2 screws, one on the bottom and one on top. With a twisting motion, use your pry tool to push the taillight towards the rear of the vehicle. Remove these 3 bulb sockets from the taillight assembly, then remove the bulbs from the top and bottom brake lights, leaving the one for the backup light intact. Remove these 3 protective covers from the bulb openings by pulling on the tab or using a small screwdriver. Mount this transformer on the inside of the bed frame just to get it out of the way, and then take the backup bulb and reinstall that on the bottom, and then the brake bulb sockets connect to these terminals right here. Now, swapping out this third brake light couldn't be easier. There's 2 screws right here that you got to remove and a wiring harness that just goes right into there. Now, this is what we started with, and this is what we've got now. Now, Hella's LED taillights and third brake lights are easy to install and just require some basic hand tools. For more information on their lights, just visit our website. Parts is brought to you by the Sears Blue Tool crew. Whether you need to sharpen your screwdrivers or grind anything else from plastics to metals, no workbench should be without a bench grinder. Now, when shopping for one, look for one that has a large grinding surface, variable speed control, and has guards to protect yourself from flying debris. This Craftsman Professional variable speed 8-inch bench grinder has all those qualities and a whole lot more. It includes a large flexible work light with its own on-off switch, a grinding wheel, as well as a wire wheel. It's solid as a rock and heavy too, so you don't have to worry about it jumping all over your workbench while you're grinding away at something with its 1725 to 3450 RPMs. And once you're done, you can cool your parts in the provided water cooling tray. Now, even though it has clear eye shields and spark guards, you should always wear safety glasses when operating a bench grinder. Check it out from the Sears Blue Tool crew in person at a local Sears store or online at their website. Man, these are dirty. Now, after you jack your vehicle high up into the air, there's only 2 things that are going to keep it there. First, it's where you place those jack stands. Now, if you've done that correctly, the only other thing that's fighting gravity are your jack stands. You want to look for stands that exceed the weight of your vehicle and from a company that you can trust to keep your vehicle from crashing down on you. Now, these Craftsman Professional jack stands are rated at a capacity of 8,000 pounds. That's 4 tons when used as a pair. They're extremely sturdy, made from welded steel, and give you the stability you need with quite a wide stance for a jack stand this size. Adjusting them to the right height is just as easy as lowering them back down to get them back out of the way. They won't accidentally disengage either with their secure locking device. They resist rust and corrosion and can be adjusted from 12 inches all the way to just over 17 inches. Take a look at them in person at your local Sears store with the help of someone from the Sears Blue Tool crew or online at their website. Letters, brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn. Hey y'all, I wanted to remind you to check us out at facebook.com/MotorsTV and also follow us at twitter.com/Motorz. Now, our first letter comes from Tim, who writes, "Hey, I love the show. I've learned a lot. I was wondering if you do any motor rebuilds, and if so, when are you going to do one?" Well, Tim, this big old engine sitting next to me is a Chevy 350 small block that we pulled out of a 1975 Chevy pickup just a few days ago. Now, the reason why we have this here is because coming up here on Season 5, we're dedicating a whole bunch of episodes to rebuilding this thing from the inside all the way out. We're going to break it down, show you how the engine works, and replace parts, rebuild it, do anything we can to bring it back to life. So be sure to check out Season 5 when we bring this thing back to life on the show. Now, Michael Evanich writes, "Chris, I love the show." Thanks, Michael. I'm looking for a car scanner to check codes when the engine light comes on. Any recommendations? I hate to keep running to the local auto parts store every time a check engine light comes on. Well, Michael, I don't blame you. Now, we've actually talked about this on the show before. It's the Innova 3160. It'll show you what all those codes mean, and it'll also do ABS codes as well. So check this out at your local Sears store or online, and all you have to do is just hook it up to your OBD2 port and save you a lot of trips to your local auto parts store. Now here's perhaps one of the strangest letters that we've received to date from Joe Thompson, who writes, "Me and my friends like your show a lot. Is it possible to donate anything? We'd like to help out because all the shows on TV suck and Motorz is the best. I wish you guys were on the power block." Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate your sentiments, and none of those shows suck, man. They all work hard, and I watch just about every single one of them as often as I can because there's so much information out there, and those guys do a great job. But I appreciate your comments and where you want to see this show being aired. I hear you, man. Now, as far as donating, well, we don't accept donations, but we do have a store at the website. Just go there, it's right at the top, click, I think it says shop. And you can buy stickers and caps and a whole bunch of other stuff. That helps promote the show more than you know. The other thing you could do is post a link to the website in your signature when you post to the forums, or just let your friends and family know. The biggest thing you could do, though, is just word of mouth. It helps more than you know, so thank you very much, man. Now, you probably already know by now that if you send in your letter and I answer it on the show, then you get a free set of plugs for your ride from E3 Spark Plugs. Now, one of those people that already received theirs is Brandon Lemon. Now, he wrote in again just to say, "I wanted to let you know that I got the E3 Spark Plugs and was so excited about them and put them on. I just wanted to say thanks to Chris and everyone else for them and keep up the good work. I also want to know if you guys are going to be doing an episode on how to lower a truck because I want to lower mine." Well, Brandon, we'll probably do that at some point in the future because we have lifted trucks, so just keep on watching the show. Now, Brandon doesn't get a set of E3 Spark Plugs because he already got them. Sorry, man, it's kind of a one-shot deal. But everybody else gets a free set of plugs just for sending them into the show. Now, for more information on E3 technology or find out if they're available for your ride, just head on over to e3sparkplugs.com. Check out the Motorz TV website to watch all of your favorite episodes and more, and talk with other viewers online in our popular forums area. Catch the latest news and information surrounding the show, as well as the entire automotive industry. Take Motorz with you on the road with our free app available for the iPhone and iPod Touch, and win free parts by entering in our monthly giveaway. It's all right here at www.motorz.tv. Lowering a late model Mustang is really easy with some basic hand tools, and the great thing about this Eibach lowering kit is its ability to be adjusted for varying conditions. And just remember when you're all done to get an alignment and retorque everything after a couple hundred miles. Now, for more information on Eibach suspension products or all the great tools we use from the Sears Blue Tool crew, just head on over to our website. We'll catch you next week on Motorz. Girl, you know it, yes, you know it's true. Done to get an alignment and clean out the lint from your belly button. I start talking, I'm like looking down, my foot is in the right place. It's nowhere close. I'll hit my mark this time. I was gonna get away with it too. He's like, yeah, it looks, no, you don't want